invited our local fire companies to come. Unfortunately, they had a training session tonight, and the only thing I can tell you that I was told by the Billy Hippauf was that if there is an emergency, if there is a problem, if there is an accident with any frac water truck or frac water spill, our local fire companies and police can do nothing about it. All they're going to do is close the road down, and they're going to wait for hazmat to come. Now, you know how rural we are. How long do you think it will take hazmat to get there?
Weeks.
If there is a spill on Meeker Outlet Road, before hazmat could get there, it would be in the creek, in Harvest Creek. So, we are trying to stop this from happening. We're concerned about the bus route, the traffic in the morning with these cars, with these trucks on the road. We have 10-ton limit on our roads. We don't know how they're going to try to get around that. Maybe Bob and Lonnie can answer that more for you. None of this is good. They're trying to tell you that this is not radioactive and there is no harm in this. There is definite harm in this. And every time they refract that same water, the radiation level gets higher. They're trying to tell us that these are enclosed trailers, that this is going to go from one trailer to the next trailer to the next trailer. They originally asked for 30 trailers. DEP application asked for 30 to 60 trailers. They originally asked, they're telling people they asked for a 1 acre site. The DE application was 2.6 acres. They said that they're only going to run the trucks. They said in the papers they're only going to run trucks from 6 o'clock in the morning to 7 o'clock at night. DEP, they asked for 24/7. So this is the controversy that we've had with this. Now, there was a meeting with DEP a couple weeks ago, and DEP threw out their application. And they said if the variance is approved, they have to reapply. Well, we were kind of hoping the DEP would say, this can't go in here. It's never going to work here. And kick it out when you would have to do the variance hearing. Fortunately, so far as I know, we have to do a variance hearing on June 3rd unless we hear anything different. So this is just a small synopsis of the stuff that I know. Dory has researched this, and she has so much information. So I'm going to turn it over to her and let her handle it, and I guess we'll have a question and answer period afterwards. Okay?
Hi, my name is Dory Hippauf, and I moved to Pennsylvania about 16 years ago. I have some roots in Pennsylvania, though. I'm originally from Massachusetts, but my great-grandfather took a couple of his oldest sons after World War I, and they emigrated to America. In Germany, they were coal miners, and when they came here and they settled in Pennsylvania around the Pittsburgh area, they were coal miners. My father worked in power plants all his life. He was a power plant engineer. His first job in a power plant was shoveling coal into the boilers. He studied, he got his license, and by the time he retired, he was fully licensed to run any kind of power plant in the United States, including nuclear. He ran coal, gas, oil, and nukes. So I grew up around power. And believe me, he is very, very conservative. He loves natural gas and thinks it's the greatest thing on earth. And so we don't discuss it when I go to visit. Not if we want to have a nice visit. I'm not an expert. I don't have any experience in it. I didn't go to school for natural gas or engineering. What I do have is 4 years of doing a lot of research into the natural gas industry and what they're doing to us in terms of the drilling, the infrastructure, the midstream, the pipelines, and now, and I know they were calling it recycling. It's not. The better word to call it is a reuse facility. I'm head of the research committee for the Gas Drilling Awareness Coalition, and I'm on the steering committee for the Shale Justice Coalition. I also blog. I have a website called nofrackingway.us, and that's where most of my work is published. Other groups from across Pennsylvania, Ohio, New York, West Virginia, Texas, the Dakotas, California. I've been contacted by a lot of groups across the United States looking for information that have been able to steer them in the right direction or give them the information outright. So what I'm going to try to do here tonight is focus on the drilling waste fluids, which is what's coming to this area, or at least what they plan on coming. What you see up here is called the Somerset Regional Water Resources Beneficial Reuse Facility. It's located up in Susquehanna County, Springville. This is probably about the size of the one if they get the 50 to 60 unit thing that Waveco wants. What you see in front there, where this blue tarp is, they're taking the sludge that's going to come out of the tanks and they're mixing it with sawdust so they can dump it at a approved hazardous waste facility. This is not beneficial use of the sludge. It is not sediment. It's toxic, it's hazardous, and the DEP told Waveco it's not sediment. You can't just put it and use it as topsoil. The liquids I'll get into a little further. You've probably seen the ANGA commercials, the American Natural Gas Association commercials on TV. If you listen to NPR radio, you've heard them on there where they've asked you to think about it. They've told you a lot about the gas industry, about all the benefits it has, how safe it is, how clean it is, and then they ask you to think about it. Well, I'm going to ask you to think about it too, and then I'm going to ask you to think about it again. Because there are things they are not telling you that you need to know. And when you think about it, we know more about the side effects of Viagra from a 30-second commercial than we know about the natural gas industry. So, first thing you need to know is when you go to the DEP oil and gas reporting website, you see this disclaimer. This is for production and waste reports. The information that you're given, you notice down at the bottom it says agree, disagree. So that means you have to read that and actually press a button to go in and read the reports and look it up. And the lines I want you to pay attention to is that this is in the second, third, and fourth paragraphs. This is a self-reporting system. This means the industry reports the information. The data is reported from producers to the DEP as required by law. DEP does not independently verify the data. DEP makes no claims, promises, or guarantees regarding the accuracy, completeness, or timeliness of the operator's data that DEP is required to post. DEP expressly disclaims any liability for errors or omissions related to the production data contained within these reports. No warranty of any kind is given, blah, blah, blah. What does it mean? It means the DEP doesn't believe their own data. This is the fox calling up Farmer Brown saying, hello, the chickens are fine. This is the Hippauf tank pad up in Springfield, Pennsylvania. This is one of the pads. Where the red dot is here in the lower left right corner, that's where the tank pad is. There are two other pads, as you can see above those. This is one place where the liquid is being reused. This is the Springville one. That was the Somerset Regional Reuse Facility, beneficial reuse. This is the one that was on the first slide. There's about 100 tank trailers on site. Each tank trailer holds about 2,000 gallons. So you're looking at 2 million gallons of fluid. All right. Well, I did click on the DEP website, said I agreed that their data, I don't believe their data either, but it's the only data you're going to get. A lot of people complain about it, the fact that this information is self-reported by the industry and nobody double checks it, makes sure it's complete and accurate. Nonetheless, I went there. I looked up Cabot Oil for this one facility. They produced 1,292,334.23 barrels of produced fluid, servicing fluid, fracking fluid waste, drilling fluid waste. One fluid barrel is 31.5 gallons. So that's 40 million gallons. Over 40 million gallons is being handled in a 6-month period from one driller. And this is going to be a short video. There we go. Give you an idea of what the plant looks like. Now keep in mind that in the beginning here, you're going to, this is time lapse on how large it's grown over the past few years. All right, what they're doing there is they're mixing the sludge with sawdust so it can be brought, the moisture level can be brought down below a certain level so it can be dumped into an approved hazardous waste landfill. And you'll see in the background there's piles of sawdust, wood chips and such that they mix with it. And some of the tanks that are there. And this plant isn't operating at full capacity at this time. All right, fracking versus drilling. One of the things you're going to need to understand is how the industry defines words. And it's quite different than how you would define it. This is a general overview of the fracking process. Water comes in, chemicals are mixed, injected in a well, you have a big explosion, you get flow back, produced water. Keep that in mind, produced water, okay? Technically it's not water, it's produced fluid. And then it goes and gets disposed of somewhere, okay? When the industry says fracking, they're narrowly defining it. They're defining it just to that point, that moment of explosion. So when they say fracking doesn't cause water contamination, it's true if you narrowly define it to that just one moment, that one bang. Of course there's no water contamination. Nothing's had a chance to get up to the water level yet. The other thing I want you to notice here is right here where the cutoff is, okay? That's the end of the well casing. The well casing does not encompass the entire vertical or horizontal run. It only goes down so far. And I've been looking it up and trying to get confirmation one way or the other. I got conflicting numbers on how far down the well casing has to be below the water table. And it's anywhere, depending on whose regulation you look at, it's anywhere from 100 to 300 feet below the water table. Well casings fail, well casings crack. A lot of problems with that. In fact, from the Canadian Petroleum Association, they said the term hydraulic fracturing is often confused purposely or inadvertently with the entire development life cycle. Environmental contamination can result from a multitude of activities that are part of the oil, gas exploration and production process, but none have been attributed to the act of hydraulic fracturing. Again, narrowly defining it, okay? So when they say it's safe, when they say it's clean, you're going to have to ask them to define it, really define it well. All right, so when I was in school, I had a teacher that used to pound on the table and said, define your terms, define your terms, define your terms. So we're going to go through some terms and define it. Frack water, it's water, sand, chemicals. This is the stuff that goes down the well. That's injected into this shale, it shatters it, it allows the gas to come out. What comes back out with the gas is called flowback water, or flowback fluid. It contains formation water, which is already down in the ground, which is already contaminated with a lot of things. It mixes with the frack water, comes back up. It's called flowback. So when the industry says only 20% of the water they put down comes back, they're only talking about flowback. Produced water continues to come back to the surface for the life of the well. So if the well is in operation for 2 years, It has produced water for 2 years. It's in operation for 10 years. It has produced water coming up for 10 years. In the Marcellus Shale, they say 5 to 7 million gallons of fresh water per well is used, with anywhere from 0.8 to 0.9% of it contains the chemicals. So not to worry. Well, 0.8% of 5 million is 40,000 gallons of chemicals. And approximately 5 to 20%, again, they're fudging the numbers, 5 to 20%, whatever sounds best. So you're looking at using 5 million gallons, you're looking at approximately 250,000 to 1 million gallons of fluid, flowback fluid coming back to the surface. That's a lot. One well. You got 2 wells on your property, double that. You got 3 wells, triple it. So what comes after the flowback? After the flowback, now this is from ACOM, which is an industry group. So this is right off of one of their PowerPoints. They were nice enough to do them for me. It contains both organic and inorganic constituents. We're talking heavy hydrocarbon, dissolved light gases, additives, treating chemicals, anti-scaling agents, hydrate inhibitors, TOC, total organic carbons. This is something you don't want in your water. And methanol in produced water can shoot up concentrates 5%. Inorganic long day. All right, you got salts in high concentrations, fine particles, dissolved gases, H2S is hydraulic. You got trace elements, barium, lithium, potassium, strontium, heavy metals, naturally occurring radioactive materials, radium, thorium, uranium, corrosion inhibitors, anti-scalants, biocides. Yeah, I'll have a glass of that, huh? Okay, norms. Norms are naturally occurring radioactive materials such as radium or uranium. T-norms are technically enhanced naturally occurring radioactive materials. Once you touch a norm, once we go in and we drill and we touch it, it becomes a T-norm. That's the only difference, because we've technically enhanced it now. All right, the ratio of produced water to oil is approximately 10 barrels of produced water per barrel of oil. That's a lot of water to get 1 barrel of oil. According to the API, more than 18 billion barrels of waste fluids from the oil and gas production are generated annually in the United States, 18 billion. And this is industry. The American Petroleum Institute. Industry owned, industry run. And you also have to know that the produced waters contain levels of uranium and its decaying products that are concentrated, and they hedge it by saying concentrations vary from site to site. You also have to know that the more these produced liquids are reused, the heavier the concentrations become. Exposure risks. This is from the good old EPA. T-norm contamination in oil production waste came to the attention of the industry and the government in 1986. They knew it was radioactive in 1986. At one point in time, the oil industry used to take their used pipes and donate them to communities to build playground equipment. These pipes were radioactive, and they were wondering why kids were getting sick. Well, somebody went out there and looked at the pipes and found out they were radioactive. So these operations in 1986 weren't recognized, and surface disposal of the sludge and scale may lead to ground and surface water contamination. So who's at risk? People who work in the industry around this stuff, and any residents, office workers, anybody who is working and living near this stuff. Pennsylvania, DEP just started looking into the T norms, into the radiation. But they've known about it since 1986, and now they've just started looking into it. How are drilling waste produced? You got produced water, all right, produced liquids. I don't like the term water because it's not water, it's just a liquid, it's a fluid. It's chemical, it's got a lot of chemicals in it, you got radiation in it, lead, arsenic, mercury, it's bad stuff. It's down, way down in the ground, and that's where it should stay. Water is separated from the oil and the gas. Part of the process, you may be familiar with the Chapin dehydration plant, all right, that was recently in the news. Part of what they do is they separate these fluids from the gas. In larger quantities is what you're looking at coming to Lake Township. Oil and gas fields that are declining produce more of these liquids than newly fracked wells. A typical Marcellus shale well averages lifespan is 2 to 3 years. Okay, Barnett shale down in Texas, that's 10 years. When they were saying we had 100 years of gas in the Marcellus shale, they were basing it on numbers based on what they were getting out of the Barnett shale. But the kind of shale we've got here, the amount of gas we've got here, 2-3 years tops. Yes, there are a few sweet spots where the wells are lasting longer, but those are far and few between. So you got uranium, thorium, aren't soluble in water, but they're radioactive decay product, radium, and other things are soluble. This is how and they're called radioactive salts. And because they're called salts, they tell you it's brine. Well, this isn't the brine you want to make pickles with. The water existing within the rock formations is called formation water. It's got the high concentration of both salts, again, uranium and radium salts, and that's why they call it brine. Bad stuff. Okay. They say they're recycling, but they're not really recycling. All they're doing is taking this stuff, these fluids, putting them into large tanks, letting the solids settle out. Waveco said it was sediment. DEP said no, it's sludge. It's contaminated sludge, and you have to dispose of it properly. They're also trying to sell this stuff to towns to use on their roads as a de-icer because it's got a lot of salts in it. What they don't tell you is that, yeah, it may be a lot of radioactive salts. Okay, in 2013, trucks carrying shale drill cuttings. Now, the drill cuttings is what the industry likes to call just dirt. It's also the stuff that they mix up with the sawdust and turn into a solid to bring it. Now, these are supposed to be checked for radiation before leaving a facility, whether it's the drill site or one of these reuse facilities. They're supposed to be checked for radiation. Well, these, when they got to these landfills in Pennsylvania, set off all sorts of radiation alarms. When the radiation alarm goes off, the facility that's handling this toxic stuff says, no, we can't take it, send it back. Well, where does it go? DEP doesn't know. In fact, the DEP spokesman, Poisner, said, we're certainly aware it's a problem in terms of what's out there. We don't know. We don't have a registry of rejected waste from the well sites. They don't know where it's going. When this wastewater comes in and gets rejected because it's for whatever reason, and it gets sent back, DEP doesn't know where it goes. So if they don't have a registry for the solid waste, there's no reason to believe they have a similar registry for the liquid waste. So what happens to rejected frack water loads? A lot of roads, a lot of back roads, a lot of dirt roads. Hey, we're just doing dust control. And there's a few headlines there of illegal dumping. Okay, Blacklick Creek, they found radioactivity, high salinity there. This is again from at the Joseph Bryan Treatment Facility. And even after the wastewater was treated at the plant to remove the dangerous chemicals, the radiation was detected far above regulated levels. The treated water had radium levels 200 times greater. All right, air. We covered the water. We know the water's not good. And what about the air? The air is going to be there. Well, all this water is going into tanks, right? It's coming out of a tanker truck. It's going to go into a tank. It's going to come out of the tank. It's going to go back in the tanker truck. No problem, right? These are the emission sources for natural gas production. Storage tank venting, 14 billion cubic feet. This is from 2009. This is the most recent one I can find. Well venting and flaring. Again, 2009, 217 billion cubic feet annually. Natural gas losses during well completion and workovers. Typical composition of pollutants and flowback emissions. Primarily methane, substantial amounts of VOC, volatile organic chemicals, trace amounts of HAPs, hazardous air pollutants. So the stuff's in there. It's in the produced water. Produced water will off-gas, meaning it will produce gases as it's sitting there, which means that it has to be vented. Otherwise, you have an explosion. This is from XTO Energy. They did a study on 4 separate explosions that occurred in a 6-month period of containment frac tanks. Same kind of trailer tanks that Waveco wants to use because they weren't vented properly. And here's what XTO found. They had static buildup, static dissipation, static may not dissipate, and they recommend this thing called the gas buster system. Well, looking at Waveco's plans, I didn't see anything about a gas buster system. So you have the problem of an explosion. One way to keep that Waveco could reduce the risk of the explosion is to vent it. Well, if you're going to vent it, it's going to be in the air. If it's in the air, you're going to be breathing it. And what I'm going to show you here is a short video of this is a tank down in Texas. This is a storage tank for produced fluids off of gas wells down in Texas. And this is what's coming off of it. Black stuff there is gases. Normal light, you can see it. You hear it, but you can see it. So this is what's being vented in the air. This is people down around Nixon, Texas, and breathing in one tank. A company down there did a air testing while this was going off, and they found high concentrations of benzene in the air. Benzene is not something you want to breathe. It's a carcinogenic. It causes cancer. All right, trucks. You got small roads here. I live on a small road. When another car's coming the other way, I'm way over to give them room. I don't want to be face down with some of these frac trucks coming down the road at me. It's going to be a lot of trucks. These trucks carry about 5,000 gallons of fluid. And they get going, especially in the winter, the road gets a little slick. They're not going to be able to stop on a dime. This particular accident happened in along the Elk River in West Virginia. You can see good weather, no ice, no snow. This was in the summer. The truck went off the side of the road, off a small country road, landed in the creek down there, and spilled about 5,000 gallons of fluid into the creek. Okay, Waveco says that they anticipate 25 truck trips per week in the initial phases. Keyword, initial phases. Each tank holds 20,000 gallons. It will take 4 trucks to fill each tank. And if they're only talking 25 a week, they're only talking 125,000 gallons. So they're not even, they got 30 tanks there, they're not even full. With the 30 tanks, it'll hold up to 600,000 gallons. To do that, to fill up all those tanks, it'll take 120 trucks. My research showed that it takes about 3 days for the solid waste to settle to the bottom of the tanks before they can siphon off the fluid and send it back up to a well pad to be reused. So figuring it out on a 3-day turnaround, you can probably expect initially, if there's only 30 tanks, to get 40 trucks a day. And they won't be coming in dribs and drabs. If this place opens at 6 in the morning, they'll be lined up 3, 4 o'clock in the morning ready to go in and dump a load. So they can get back to the well pads and pick up another load and go back out. These are water trucks up in Bradford County waiting to get filled. They're lined up. And it's actually, they go back behind the tree line. There's even more back there. West Virginia trucks lined up to get water withdrawals. So there's a lot of trucks. You're gonna have a lot of truck traffic on these small roads. You got kids, you got school buses, you got yourself. Roads get slick in the winter. A lot of things can happen. And here's a video that was shot of your roads. And I believe there's a shot of the bridge here, which I was told has now been widened. So it's not a single narrow bridge anymore, it's much wider. Yeah, I think that's the bridge that I was told is now been widened. In 2010, 3/4 of the trucks hauling water for the natural gas drilling industry were stopped by enforcement operation. It was called Fracking. Out of that, 1,066 out of 1,400 trucks were taken up. They were inspected, and they were cited. Some of them were removed from operation. There was another one done in the previous month. Another one, 401 citations, and 75 vehicles were placed out of service. As far as I know, there hasn't been a frac net or anything like it since 2010. Now, these trucks are in operation 24/7. Now, if you think of the Pony Express, you got a rider who rides into a Pony Express office, hops on a fresh horse, and takes off. Something similar, except you got the trucks driving in, the driver gets out, a new driver gets in, and the truck goes. Some of these trucks don't even stop. So they're going 24/7. And they're going, where they're dumping the stuff now, or trying to dump it, is in injection wells in Ohio, Western Pennsylvania, New York, West Virginia. They're trying to get permission to dump it into Connecticut now. And so far, Connecticut doesn't want it, no matter how good and safe they say it is. Okay, roads. Each shale well in Pennsylvania contributes between $5,400 and $10,000 in damage to the state roads, according to researchers at the RAND Corporation. This was this report came out March 27th this year. The report only focused on the cost of state-maintained roads. It excludes the smaller local roads and assumes that you're going to have some sort of agreement with WAVECO. or with the drillers bringing in the stuff for your roads. They also, not mentioned in the report, they also are assuming that you're going to get some impact fee. Well, we don't have any wells in Luzerne County, so there is no impact fee. So who's going to pay for the roads? The road repairs. We are. Exactly. Property values. There's aren't any studies out there specifically dealing with these frac waste plants. So the best I can come up with is to compare it to the actual drilling pads. Approximately 16 to 25% of the value of your house goes out the window the minute you sign a lease, the minute your neighbor signs a lease. Goes down another 25% when they start drilling. If your water goes bad, your house is worth zero. There are also a lot of lenders out there who are now hesitant about approving applications for refinancing of the home or approving mortgages of homes with or near gas wells. Now, I realize this plant, this Waveco plant is not a gas well, but it's heavy industry. It does not belong in a residential neighborhood. The standard homeowner's insurance policy includes a pollution exclusion for property, which means that if there's a spill, if there's a leak, and your land is polluted, your homeowner's insurance won't cover it. Jobs. They're going to talk a lot about the jobs. Well, they said trained personnel will be on site. They didn't say how many trained personnel. I went and I found this company called Fracking Water Management in Roanoke, Texas. They run these kind of plants down in Texas. They got 40 employees. They have 9 plants. So 4.4 employees. So there may be 4.4 people working at Waveco, at this Waveco plant, maybe, if that. Chapin dehydration station, nobody works there. It's all remotely controlled and monitored. Compressor stations, no one works there. It's all remotely controlled. This is Randy Moyer, and I'm gonna show you a video here. He worked for the industry hauling this stuff. Drove a truck, cleaned the tanks. He worked there for 4 months. He got very ill. He went to doctors. He went to the company. He went to the drillers' doctors. They told him he had hives. He had allergies. He was allergic to shrimp. 2 years later, he still has reoccurring bouts of rashes, blisters, burning sensations, swelling, intense pain, and itching. And I'm going to let you tell this story. And then you tell me whether or not this stuff is safe. This guy only worked 4 months. 4 months working with this stuff.
Tissue, and it'll stay there. It'll go in deep, come back out, burn the skin, come back in deep. So some days I'll be able to breathe real good. Some days it's like someone squashed me. Some days it's like someone took a bar and run it right through my chest, and it go through to my spine to where it's painful, bad painful. I got on there August 28th, I went through for orientation. November 30th, 2011, I was done with the cover.
And you left because you were so sick, so ill.
I was burning, you know, back then, man, I mean, this stuff was all over me. I lifted up my shirt one the first time I got up there, and you know, I had probably about a half-inch weld pluggies and sheets. And they, well, it's hives, and it's this, and it's that. You got food poisoning, you got, what else? Allergies,
You ate shrimp.
you ate shrimp, I didn't know, they tell you anything they want to tell you to make it your fault. Some money without using my own truck, that's in the bottom of my feet.
Yeah.
That goes everywhere. You can't knock out with scratching it. Get knees like that, tongue swell up, hands fall off, arms, one move one day, then I'll go down, go over to this one that way, and down to your privates, or down to your body, down to the leg, back up here, up to your lip, up to your eyelids.
And is that your cheap, Randy?
Oh, that's, put it lighter under your skin, that's what it is. And this will, see, that's why I said I'm in transition, where the rain, and this will swell, and it will come out about that far, turn about as red as that candle, and just burn like crazy. But it goes, I mean, everywhere. And it's like it's 2 years later.
And it just keeps moving.
Okay, close your eyes, guys, because it's behind me.
I used to be a student.
Don't swear.
Oh my gosh. What?
Same thing with the hands will swell up, fingers. This one just went down. And you got to scratch it because it irritates you so much.
Now, during the training, do they do any specialty training in regards to radioactivity? Is that where you even mentioned during that training?
I'll let him answer that one.
Did they ever give you an idea what the chemicals were that caused that problem?
Drivers don't know. You know two things when you're a driver. Where you're going and where you're delivering. That's the driver. You ain't, never discussed radiation, never discussed what chemical components, never, none of this stuff.
Okay, those are some photos of Randy. The top photo there of his face, that's not his tongue, that's his upper lip. This has been going on for 2 years. It comes, it goes, it comes, it goes. He only worked for the industry for 4 months, driving wastewater trucks. So there's a lot, probably you got a lot of questions. I hope I got some answers for you. I still have a lot of questions myself, and I'm still digging for more information. What you can do is ask questions, educate yourself on the issue. Don't take my word for it. Go ahead and look it up yourself. Go ahead and do your own research. See what you can find. Show up at your county meetings. Tell them to say no to this plant. You don't want it. It does not belong in a residential neighborhood. We have no gas drilling in Luzerne County. We should not be taking the waste from another county. They love the gas drilling so much, let them keep the waste. And you got to take responsibility for your government. This is our government. This is the government of the people. And for too long, we've abdicated that responsibility. So we've got to get more involved. We've got to pay attention to what's going on. We've got to stand up. We've got to speak out. We've got to get local and be vocal. Otherwise, we're just going to get run over. So that's all I got to say. We did set up a website called backmountaintcitizens.wordpress.com. Invite you to check it out. I'm going to try to get this PowerPoint up there in one form or another, so you can go through it at your leisure. And as more information comes along, I'll be putting it up there for you. So I want to thank you all, and I hope you learned something tonight.
And Dory will talk to you about the property better. value will drop in half. That's not including the other houses that are on our road. So this is something that's really, we're kind of passionate about, that we don't want this here. When they're talking about these enclosed tanks, we have talked to a frac truck driver who has told us that every time they go to unload a truck, they have to leave the gas out first. So if that gas is developing in that truck to the frac water site, that means that water has to keep expanding and gas has to be in that frac water tank. I know I'm not using the right language, but, and they said they are not ventilating these tanks. If the gas is being produced in the truck there's got to be more gas being produced in these tanks. And they're saying you will not smell anything, it will not hurt our environment at all, and that we could take this sludge and put it on our yards for fertilizer. So as you can see, that's not going to work. So I'm going to let Bob Pace and Lonnie Payette talk to you a little bit about some of the things that we're doing. We're going to try to keep it short so we can get you out of here. But if you have any questions,